Now, way back in the day when I was at Boise State going to school, I was studying, in this particular class, it was business statistics. And the professor had a medical condition and he was losing the function of some of his nervous system. And so he's walking with a cane, but it's not just any old guy. This guy, I believe, was 6'8" and played basketball in college, and massive, massive guy. And as he walks down the hall, he said people would just clear the hall when they saw him coming because everyone thought he was going to fall on his face every step he took. And he's like, but that's how I learned how to walk now that I can't use my legs right. And he was totally okay with it. And what was funny is there's probably 50 people in this class. And I would always sit front and center in that class and just doing my own thing. And up in the very back top corner, left corner, teacher would always sit in the desk right here. Straight back from him, there's these two students. One of them was like 5'5", and the other one's 6'2". And the professor one day notices them, is looking, and he's like, "What's up, you two?" And they'd always sit together. And one of them would never talk. Tall guy never talked. Short guy always would. Tall guy, he's like, "What's up? What's going on? You two are wearing the exact same clothes." And seriously, same shirt, same pants. And he's like, "Are you two a couple or something?" And the tall guy just beat red, totally embarrassed. And the short guy got embarrassed. And he's like, "Well, I don't know. Like, we both get dressed in the dark, I think." And he's like, "Well, the worst part is we are roommates." And the whole class just erupts laughing. And tall guy's dying, like ready to crawl under the desk. And short guy's just eating it up. And I was like, what a difference in perspective. And I had a friend who sums the whole thing up. She's like, it doesn't matter what people are saying as long as they're talking about you.
That's fair. I mean, that I think that holds true in politics and in business.
Right? Yeah. I remember one of my favorite stories. I was listening to Dan Kennedy last year, and he's presenting a big room full of people. And he's talking about how one of his customers was an absolute, and well, I can't use his real words. I'll tone it down. In his, close to Dan's words, an idiot. And he said the guy was an idiot because 60 Minutes told him they wanted to interview him. 60 Minutes never does a feel-good piece. It's always a hit piece. So what was he thinking, letting these people? And so this guy brings them on, explains how he does all the way he does his business and how he does these payment plans for people, and then takes them on his private yacht and shows them how wealthy he is. And 60 Minutes did this absolute horrible hit piece on the guy, claiming that he is the most horrible person and should lose his licenses and should be run out of the whole country. And the guy calls up Dan Kennedy, "What do we do?" And he's like, "Well, you already did it. You created this mess." But Dan Kennedy said for the next 4 years, they used on all of their promotion, all of their advertising, everything that they did, they used as seen on 60 Minutes. And nobody went and watched the hit piece after it was done. But for 4 years, they got the associative boost of 60 Minutes on everything they produced.
Well, I guess I was just thinking about that. I was just realizing that there are so many scandals, so many of these events that happen all the time that we don't have the collective memory of being able to remember who was in the doghouse 3 years ago.
Right.
And so yeah, and like anytime you can get that association, if you lean into it, you can spin it however you want. And that was actually something that hit me. We're having a dinner with some relatives on Sunday, and one of them, and they brought a cake. And the cake, for whatever reason, was like, it got broken up into pieces and was kind of like completely destroyed. So it looked terrible. It tasted fine.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like a pretty cake. And they came in apologizing about the cake, and I was like, look at that. You could have just leaned into it. You could have put some coffee bits on it. So like you could have, like, instead of just having like a third or half the cake be all like messed up, you could have just done that to the entire thing. And like like leaned into it and been all intentional, and if you hadn't said anything, nobody would have known the difference.
Right. Yeah, I was in a meeting just the other day talking more on that memory side, and the guy was like, you need to write down your goals every day. And one of the people raised their hands like, wait a minute, let me get this straight. If I have a goal to make $1 million this year, you want me to write down make $1 million this year every single day? And the person giving the presentation is like, well, yeah. How come? Why would I write it down every day? I already know my goal. He's like, okay, well, let's talk about this. Let's say you want to think back on what you did last week. Tell me what you thought about. What were you thinking last week? What was important last week? Can you even tell me? Silence. If you can't remember what's happening last week and you write down one goal once and then you never think about it again, do you think at the end of the year you're actually going to achieve that goal? Or do you think if you wrote down that goal every single day, it would be at the top of your mind? And the guy's like, got it. But it's that shift. Like we get so distracted, so much data flowing in. Our brains are not wired to remember all the details about everything. I know one guy, and he told me his uncle had an absolute photographic memory to the point he was working for the government breaking mobs, and everyone else that they had sent in to do this same job had disappeared under suspicious circumstances and then be found dead later. He's the only one that survived, and it was because he never wrote anything down ever. He had an absolute photographic memory where he could reference things that happened 36 years ago with absolute clarity. This, all the details, where you were standing, what you were wearing, and he just knew it. But most humans aren't that way. And so we have these things and we're like, oh, this emotion, I felt this emotion in this one moment and I felt embarrassed here, or I was excited here. And that's what we remember is our feelings, but not all the details. And so it's up to us to keep reminding ourselves what is important, what do we want to focus on, how do we, and then the other side, we're way more important to ourselves than we are to anyone else. So we may think that we're sharing this great message all the time, but people are going to forget about it because we're not that important.
Well, even beyond that, if we think we shared the message multiple times, like other people don't hear it like we do. Like we're constantly repeating that in our own heads. Like we could share it with somebody 10 times and they've got so much else, so many other things hitting them that, yeah, we shared it with them 10 times, but it doesn't come to front of mind. So I mean, it's true with employees or anyone. When you talk about writing things down, I came up with this quote. I have no idea if it's original or not, like as far as like if somebody else has already come up with it first, but it's original to me. And it's, every undocumented process is a future hostage situation. And you're the hostage.
Interesting. Every undocumented process is a hostage situation.
A future hostage situation. This is aimed towards business owners.
And sorry, when you said I had a quote, it reminded me of one of my favorite quotes I've ever heard. And it was, the trouble with the internet is you never know who said anything. Abraham Lincoln, right?
Right.
How every undocumented process could equal a hostage situation. And by hostage situation, you mean that the business owner is being pulled back into the business and being held hostage by the business, and they can't walk away because they have to be there to either fix the problem that was created because there was no process, or to tell people what to do because they don't know how to act.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, I know you've experienced this, and that's one of the core things you've been working on the last few years, is making sure that everything is documented. Everything is, you have a process, and so that your company can run without you being pulled into the weeds every single day.
But on this, pushing back on that, I don't believe in having a process for everything. Like, there's a line where you're like, here's the processes that we follow.
Yes.
And here's how we do our business.
Here's our repeating activities.
Right. And then there's some people who get so process obsessed. They're like, okay, I need a process for what happens if I am about to complete a sale and I send them the link and I'm standing there next to them and the link doesn't work because they lose their internet connection and they lost their internet connection because there was a nuclear attack. Okay, what am I going to, and they build a process for that. And you're like, dude, that's never going to happen. Why are you wasting your entire life building process for something that's never going to happen? So no, I don't believe
Yeah.
everything should have a process. What I believe is the important things, like you said, the repeating activities should have processes. And then even more important, we make sure that the employees know the way that they should represent the business and what that brand stands for so that they can make intelligent decisions that are based on some real guiding principles rather than just shooting from the hip and having no guiding principle of this is the way we behave as an organization.
Yeah, well, I think a part of that is like when business owners hear about documenting processes, so many have no idea what that actually means. Like what goes into what actually should be a part of a process. And and we have these things that I see with clients sometimes that I call kitchen sink SOPs. And it's like they cram the training, they cram the checklists, they cram the contingencies, they cram all of these things into one document, and then they expect somebody to take that document and actually use it while they're doing whatever the job is. It's like
Yeah.
that's no one will ever use that because it takes more time to get the thing out and flip through every single page to try and find like whatever it is that you're supposed to be doing for that particular step than it does just to do the job in the first place.
Right. Yeah. It's
And
terrible.
so they don't realize that like you have to separate, like there's a training piece and you train people like how to do the job, how to do this particular thing. And then there's a checklist. And the only thing that they should have out while they're doing the job is a checklist. And then in order for it to be a process, there has to be some way that it gets reported back to a system so that it can be verified that it was done, which then allows whatever that process was, because it's just a link in a chain, to then the results of that to feed into the next process or the next procedure. You use those words interchangeably, but so you have to break that out so that all they need is the simple checklist. And the checklist it doesn't need to be every single step. I mean, it only needs to be as detailed as it really needs to be for however complicated that thing is. Like, I mean, you have two different people could write a checklist and one could have 30 checkboxes on it and be completely ineffective, where somebody else generates a checklist to do the same thing and they only have 4 boxes
Yeah.
because
I think that the
training
fast
covers.
food industry really did a good job of bringing this idea of process to the world. There'd been all kinds of people that have done it before, but
Mhm.
going into a restaurant, the people working in a restaurant couldn't remember 30 steps and they couldn't remember every intricacy. So instead, like I'm watching someone in my mind that I saw a little while ago, and they had a fryer and they put all the baskets up, step one. They got the frozen food out, dumped it in the baskets, threw the bag away, put the baskets down, and pressed go. And then when the machine stops, then they're going to pull them back up to let them drain, and then they dump them so that people can use the product that they just finished cooking. It's like a 5-step process. They didn't have to know what the temperature of the oil was. They didn't have to know what the contingency plan was in case the oil was too hot or too cold or something. They just have to know those few basic steps. And the other thing that was really cool was that whole process, it was so efficient that it all happened in one space. The person wasn't walking 15 feet over here to push the button to turn the machine on. They weren't walking 50 feet over here to throw the sack away. Everything was very contained for that one little cell. And that one cell had one job, and it was to fry food.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it, and I think when business owners like we can't like documentation is a waste of time, it's because they don't know how to do it. They don't know what good looks like. I mean, there's
that could be part of it. The other is they do too many things.
which comes down to not knowing what good looks like. Or you mean
Well,
that they have too many different products and services in their business, and
right.
it's overly complicated for the size of their organization.
That's what I mean. I knew a guy who ran a snowplow and an IT company. Same company, not two companies, same one. Like if
So
you were
like the
training an
techs don't have
employee,
like so like the techs are answering like tech calls while they're out plowing snow.
got to do something when business is slow.
I guess.
That was his mindset. I needed something to do if business is slow. And my thought was, how about something to do if business is slow is you go get more business. But if you don't know how to get more business, then you see every opportunity to make a buck and you're like, I can make $5 doing that. I can make $2 doing that. I can make $3 doing this. And pretty soon you've got this weird eclectic collection of stuff that fell into your lap. And you're like, yeah, we do custom glass. We do IT support. We make milkshakes and sell them at the fair. And you're like, what's your company? John Smith Enterprises. Yeah, I can see why, because it's literally everything John Smith can do.
Right. Yeah, that's it's definitely there's that entrepreneurial spirit of being able to get something going and off the ground, and you learn the skills of being able to take something to a certain point, and then you just repeat those same skills with a new offer, and you
Or
never
with a new
learn the
customer.
skills to take it to go from where you know how to get it to that next level.
Yeah.
Whether you need to get additional training, whether you need to work with a mentor or consultant, or whether you just need to grind out and figure out how you can go from to take this one business that you know all about, that you already have customers for, and go to another one. You just keep stacking chaos into your life because you keep repeating the same loop over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah. I had someone call me about a year ago now, and I pick up the phone. Hey, I understand that you do blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I do that stuff. Okay, well, this is what I need you to do. And he starts listing it out. He describes all of his problems. I said, hey, we don't do that. And he was shocked. He's like, what do you mean you don't do that? We don't offer that service. He's like, well, I know you can do all these things. Yeah, I can do all those things. Well, then you could do this. Yeah, you're right, I could. But we don't do that. Well, no, you could do that. And he's trying to argue with me to convince me that because I can do that, that I will do that work for him. And I said, listen, buddy, this is what you can do. You can go and you do step A, step B, step C. When you do that, if it doesn't work, go find someone on Fiverr. Have a nice day. And he's like, wait, no, you can do. And then finally he's like, well, I can do it myself. You're right, you can. Okay, goodbye. And he hung up. And because he realized he could do it, that means he should do it and he shouldn't hire someone else. But he thought because I could do it, that I had to offer that service to him. And he was really put off and argumentative when I told him just because I can doesn't mean I will.
well, I mean, just from that attitude alone, like I remember one of my favorite phrases that I had learned from you years ago was that you can fire your customers.
Right.
Like if you get somebody who's a bad fit, like you can let them go. And when I heard you say that, like it stuck with me, because up to the point I was like, what? No, you have to, like, I was in that mindset. It's like, if I could figure out how to get it done, then that's something that I should be doing. And I had like my first successful business, I kept like, I learned this from my father, because that's how he did, is like, if he had something that he could do for somebody, then like he would absolutely do it. And he had like this hodgepodge of different things. And I started trying to incorporate some of that into my business. And I realized my core business grew enough that I realized how much of a distraction these other little side projects were.
Oh,
Like
right.
selling selling aftermarket automotive parts, and selling this, another product. And like I had all these like little products that didn't even really relate to my, certainly there were things my existing customers would use, but they weren't my core offer. And
Right.
having them did nothing but detract from my core offer. And so I tried that. I did it for like 2 years trying to figure out how am I going to monetize both my core offer and all these other little like essentially side hustles at the same time. I finally realized like, nope, I don't need any of that. And so I just quit. Like I cut off all the extraneous offers, all that extra chaos that was creating for me went away, and I was able to double down on my core offer and grow it even more because I limited what I was doing, and I was able to like when the handful of people would still call me, hey, do you still have this? Like, no, I don't. But you can call this guy. I was just
Yeah.
like, nope, not me. I'm not doing that anymore.
And when you have a scarcity mindset, I think that's when people go out and they're like, no, I have to offer that. I have a moral obligation to do that. If I know how, I should be doing it. But when a person flips the script and says, wait a minute, what if I just leaned into that one thing, that one offer, that one specialty, that one stack of stuff, and that's all I did, and I specialized in that? Oftentimes people are afraid that they won't have enough customers, so they won't make enough money, and so they scatter and just take whatever comes, but it's because they don't know how to create enough noise in the marketplace, enough attention, enough eyeballs looking at their business, that they have the ability to filter and say, nope, this segment's not for me, this segment's not for me, this segment is for me.
Well, but it's that as well. It's that plus they were rewarded. Like when you're doing a startup, when you're bootstrapping something off the ground, you take, like, if they have a pulse and a wallet, you take their money. Like, it doesn't matter what it's for.
Yeah.
Like, and when you're a startup, like you get that's your reward. Like you get reward. That's how you make your money. You do. And if they're willing to hand you money, like you take it and try and deliver. And so we get stuck in this idea that's what we're rewarded for, and so we keep trying to default back to that.
Right.
And we have to let that identity go. Like we have to be able to cut that off, otherwise we'll never leave it. Like, and
Mhm.
as you move through different stages of business, or your business grows in scale, there are identities that you have to let go of in order to be able to keep the progress moving. Because like every business that starts from bootstrap and grows, they get stuck because the owner gets stuck in a particular mindset, particular set of beliefs, and until they're willing to let those go, such as, I don't actually have to offer everything I possibly can and try and grab every single potential customer in the entire market at the same time with different offers. I can't, like, they have to let go of that belief and realize I can have one core offer that serves one type of customer, and I can take that and I can make that into a multi-million-dollar company. And like if for the proof of that is, just look, is there somebody else in the market who's doing what you're doing that has created $100 million enterprise doing it?
Or it
And
doesn't even have to be 100 million. For a
I
lot of
mean,
these small business owners, do you know someone who's turned it into a 5 or $10 million business?
right. And the
And
answer is
if you can
almost
look
always
and say,
yes.
yep, then yep, you can do it different.
So, but then again, like, the other argument comes in is like, well, how did they do that? Like, and if you think you want to try and do that in a different way, like, you can try it. But if somebody's already got a proven model, why wouldn't why wouldn't you adapt their as much of their model as you possibly can, because it works, instead of trying to think that we have to play on hard mode and reinvent the wheel as we move forward and grow our business. Like, we don't have to do that. I mean, the information for anything is freely available, and yet we have this. I catch myself doing this often as well. We feel like if it's too easy, then we didn't earn it.
Mm, yeah, that's a really powerful thought. If it's too easy, we didn't earn it. Huh. So by that same token, if someone believes that, then someone shouldn't do what they're good at. They should only do what they're bad at.
Right. Well,
If you
so
if you
my
push that idea to the limit.
yeah, to the extreme.
Yeah.
So my two of my sons one of them had, so they're doing this battlebot competition with their school. They're building robots, and they're on a team together. And one of my sons, he ordered all the parts based on what AI told him to order. He had AI do all the coding for the robot, and he used the tools that were available to him, and this is their third one I think that they've done, and it was super easy for him, and he was bragging about like how much he got done.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my sons was like, well, you didn't actually do that. Like, you didn't actually do the code. Like, you didn't. And I stopped him because it triggered this thought in me. It's like, why? Like, why would you get after? Like, why would you try and tell your brother that it's not fair that he found the most efficient and effective way to get the job done? Like why would he have to do it in a harder way for it to be worth it? Like why does he have to do it in the hardest way possible for him to claim that he accomplished it? It's
Right.
like what is wrong with him using the tools that are available?
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't tell a framer that they were a better framer because they tried to pound every nail by hand. I mean, like, literally with the hand.
Stop using that nail gun. That's cheating.
And so it's like we don't have we don't have to play on hard mode. Like life does not have to be that way, especially with all the technology and tools that are available very, very cheaply at our fingertips.
Totally. And what's amazing is I see that played out every day. People don't know how to use a tool. They get scared of the tool. Then they're like, no one should use that tool. Well, why are you saying that? Well, the real reason is they don't know how to use it and they're scared of it. Therefore, no one should use it because it scares them and they don't like to be scared.
And they're potentially worried that somebody else that actually learns how to use it might have some kind of unfair advantage.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't earn it.
Unfair advantage, I think we call that innovation.
Right? Isn't that what we all wanted? Like that's the goal of entrepreneurship. That's how we get a better standard of living. That's how entrepreneurs make the world a better place, is through creating an unfair advantage. And as soon as you create it, everybody else copies it. And then somebody else comes up with a new unfair advantage, and the cycle continues, and life gets better.
Yep. And I go back, I think you may have been there. This guy was talking about innovations, and he said there's innovations that benefit people, and then there's innovations that are destructive innovations and they harm people. I was like, wait a second. I think you're talking about the same innovation from two different perspectives. Like, we're talking Einstein's theory of relativity. Relative to the consumer, that's an amazing innovation. Relative to the guy that used to push the broom to be the street sweeper, that giant machine driving down the road sweeping is a destructive innovation because now I'm out of a job and it destroyed my job. So that poor guy, I think he was in the case where he was standing over here afraid for his job. And so he declared that innovation to be a destructive innovation rather than a beneficial one. But the end consumers over here, give me more of that all day long. Yeah, you lowered my cost, you improved the speed of delivery, and you improved the quality of the delivery. How's that destructive? I lost my job.
Yeah. Well, and that is such a hard thing. Like, especially as business owners, you see somebody else come up with something, a better way to deliver your product or service that they can do faster, cheaper, higher quality. And you think, oh man, that's a destructive innovation. It's really hard. I mean, that's a very, very challenging situation to be in. And you're right, absolutely right. There are two different perspectives. Like, you can zoom out and be like, hey, this is actually good for society as a whole. But for me, in this moment, it's a challenge. But that challenge is really just an opportunity to up your own game,
right?
To innovate again. Like the world isn't static, and sometimes when we let that fear get on us, we can default to a zero sum mindset.
Mm-hmm.
But
what's
there is
amazing is every time we have one of those innovations, standard of living goes up, which means the tide rises cumulatively for basically everyone.
Yep.
When you look at it on the long scale. So all those poor candle makers, sorry, kind of out of a job now that we have the light bulb. But how much less expensive is it for us to have light everywhere now that we're not trying to make candles and light candles all the time. And now everyone has that extra money they can go spend on something else.
Yeah. So to sum up, it's like, I don't know, we've covered a lot of different things, but lean into innovation, whether it's yours or somebody else's.
Definitely. All right. Thanks, everybody.